What a great pleasure to be here and honored to talk about the platform economy, if the next slide will come up. I have, if you read it in the agenda, probably the longest title ever of a keynote, which is here, the platform economy, and there was a lot more. I decided to cut it because I can't remember that much, so I decided to just take it my own part and go from my own perspective on the platform economy. Briefly, what's the issue? Why are we talking about that one? What is actually a platform? Because there's a lot of words, and I believe every bank claims to be a platform, but when you drill down a little bit and try to understand the real economics, that might be a questioning statement. Why me? Why am I actually talking about it? So to build afterwards a little bit of credibility for myself, why I believe I have a say in that one. And then let's briefly look at the topic of why financial services. To get started, I'm just going to steal a big quote from a big person who you know, Jeff Bezos, and he actually said, "Your margin is my opportunity." And that is a very powerful statement when you look at it from a platform economy, because it's all about margin. It's all about, as we will see later, about transaction costs. It's all about easing the way to interact. And there is usually, in a lot of business, when you interact, there's still a lot of margin left, empowered, of course, by digital. And Jeff Bezos brilliantly used that one, probably the same like Alibaba did, and this is the outcome of that one. Pretty beautiful game, and really something which scaled. And it not only scaled, and that becomes a little bit more of the scary part, and I believe one of the reasons why we are talking here about it today, because it is not only staying in the core business. When you look about the diversification by now, and even the year-on-year or Q2 to 18 to 19 growth, you can see it's still in a massive growth, and it's not only limited to the core business any longer. It is really spreading out. It is using the platform economics and the benefits of a platform to move beyond. And that, of course, is what puts fear to a lot of bankers here in the room, because that means, hey, those guys are coming maybe also fast. And they are already, as we know. And of course, not only the big guys are in there, it's also a lot of the startups. This is the mentioning of the word platform in this year's, or over the time, Slush application. Slush is one of the largest startup conferences in the Nordics, or also in Europe, and that you can see that almost 30% of all startups claim themselves to be some kind of a platform. So it's certainly not something which is a small niche. Actually, there's coming a lot more. But let's take a pause and look, what is a platform? And I found many different definitions, of course, sharing economy and on what really makes a platform. I thought this one is a good one. It's a media for interaction, so certainly a platform is something where we interact. We talk about digital platforms, so online, and still one party dictates the rules. Think about the Apple App Store, right? You have a lot of parties on there. It's a great medium. We all use it, but one, or most of us who's on the Apple world at least, and one dictates the rule. Another one which I like, and I don't know who it was from, because I read and then sometimes I take notes, so apologies for that person who I'm not quoting here. Actually, that said, value creation of a platform business model is by nature outside of a company. And that again is a powerful statement if you think about it. Outside of a company, as a bank, as a financial services player, what we are naturally born to is we want to own, we want to control. We have control, end-to-end processes. We don't like any loose ends in there. And the platform is exactly the opposite. One person dictates the rules, but lets everybody else happen. Hey, you are in there. So let's take how that does work. Usually where platforms come up, it's markets where there's a lack of transparency, or there's high transactional costs. If you think about all the platforms which you know out there, the Airbnbs, etc., how would you find a private flat to rent? It's hard. There was some here and there, but it was very difficult to really find it. So they said, hey, let's put it online, let's create transparency, and let's make it super easy for all of us to transact. So what they did is they developed a product, a service, or a solution, whatever you want to call it. They created some traction. They got a lot of funding, which is very important, and we'll come back to that one when we talk about funding and money and the risk attached to that one. You get customer insights, something very beautiful, and everybody who's read Eric Ries, the lean startup, knows, of course, with customer insight, you can do experiments, and you can learn, and you can best, and you can do an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H testing, which creates a lot of benefits again for you, because you know a lot. You have that one, and you can use it in order to create a better product, a better service. That one usually leads to you have more margins, and that one, the Amazon example, leads to create new products and new services. And then you're all above in that one. You're constantly optimizing. You're just gaining and creating more market share for yourself. Of course, it's a scale game, so its size matters, and we'll see that one very briefly. When we look at platforms, size certainly matters. We know a handful of big platforms. Now, it's not that it's the most localized game. When you think about it, this is a KPMG analysis in the end of 2018, so it's a good year old, but still. Back then, the platform economy was estimated to be $7 trillion dollars. Out of that one, in terms of market cap, 70% is owned or is captured by 7 players. So they dominate. So nobody can tell me size does not matter in platforms. Size matters. It's those 7 guys who make 70% of the platform economy. You have another 20%, which they call the elite unicorns. So this is their unicorns with a valuation of more than 25 billion. So the rather big ones, the Ubers out there, yes, certainly a platform, which make then overall it's 90% of the market, and the rest is just a little bit of the side notion. That's an important one because, of course, with that kind of valuation money, it really means, you gotta go all in there. It is not something which any of those players had achieved if there was not a lot of belief and not a lot of funding beyond that in order to get that one. So for platform economy, in order to create the scale benefits, size absolutely matters. How does it relate to us? So why am I here? You see the logo, Matchmaker Ventures. So what we do, we actually came from a different side of the problem. We said, Europe is pretty small. Europe is 7% of the world's land. It's a small. We have a lot of nations. It's super diverse. We have 51 countries. On average, we're less than 15 million per country, and it's super fragmented. And as we talked before, transaction cost of doing business, it's pretty high, in particular when you think about the enterprise market. Everybody who's in enterprise sales, and we have fintechs out here, and we have large corporates, and hopefully over the next days there will be a lot of mingling and a lot of, let's take the transactional costs out and let's do business. We were thinking of the same thing. There was actually, business, B2B sales, business development sales, it's super hard. It takes a lot of time, and scaling in Europe is super expensive. It takes a lot of time. Going from Germany, yes, 80 million, good. Go to Austria, where I live, 8 million. Is it an attractive market? Then you go to Liechtenstein, a few 10,000s, and again, you have the same effort to do business. So what we said is, hey, let's find a solution how we can actually create a platform, how we can link those 2 players together. So we work between startups, fintechs, and large corporates in order to ease the way they do business. Saying on the one hand, we have portfolio companies who we help to do business with the corporate side. And I'm saying that one because on the next point, are we really a platform? This is an important one because many banks and many players claim to be a platform, but they're not. And actually, I came to the same conclusion, for ourselves, where we are. Because a platform, if you go back to my definitions, right, it's one player dictates the rules, but you let the other mingle and do actually the business. You're not involved. You're not end-to-end in control. You let go in control. You give the rules, you give the settings, and you let the other peoples enable to do the business. So what do? We have startups, we find matchmakers who help us as sales agents, and we have corporations. We introduce the startups, which we work to our matchmakers, who are our sales agents, in order to bring them to the corporates. And when we started, of course, this is the platform, startups and corporates, and there's a lot of them out there by now, hey, who try to bring together those 2 parts, either from the more research and identification, hey, I find you, what is this startup? But then, we thought for ourselves, kind of chasing the dream, and we started in 2015, hey, that really, how does it work, and where's a platform economics, and of course, there's a gazillion books out there, and I tried to read many of them and didn't get a lot smarter, and we didn't move really, until I actually realized, hey, if I talk about a platform, this is the platform. And that changed everything for ourselves as well, because I actually realized, hey, we want to bring and make the interaction between the sales agents, our matchmakers out there, and the startups easy. Because that will help them and equip them to go to the corporates, which I believe it's a people's business, in order to bring matches. And that is really important just to understand, if you're chasing a platform dream, where is really your platform? Where are you really taking out the transactional costs? Because that will change any metrics which you will have. That will change any experiment which you want to run on that one. It's about learning always. We're all in the learning economy. We all want to get smarter every day. But if you chase the wrong part, and that's what I see in so many banks nowadays, every bank executive you talk to is saying, I'm building a platform, we're building a platform, we're building a platform here and there. But in reality, if you really think back to it, are you really building a platform with adhering to the platform economics rules? And therefore, are you chasing the right KPIs, and are you doing the right action out of that one? And I think we're getting very, very loose. So platform economy, 70% is 7 players. So how many are really there in order to be able to run the platform game? You can take the advantages, but not necessarily do you want to become a platform in there. So why should banks really bother? You know, why is this a topic? And I think afterwards there's even there's another keynote on the topic of platformication. So the topic is also here, and the keynote, a couple of the speakers, a couple of times we come back to the topic of platforms. Banks, obviously, and you know much more about that one. Yes, you know, you have a lot of things you need to deal with. Obviously, digital is still trying to manage, you know, massive shifts, which is happening, regulation. There's, of course, a lot of startups, fintechs who are eating here and here and here from your business. And, of course, that's probably the most dangerous part. There's everyone and everything else. Because, of course, with what we have here, the open banking regulation, again, which enables that one, basically everybody else can come into your market and think about how can I make that more efficient. Of course, you know, the obvious ones, loan is one which is happening, classical marketplace, classical market where a platform economy can create massive benefits. And I believe that is important to understand also for your own business benefits. Where does really the platform economies, for which subsegments of you, where can it really create an impact? Where is the high transaction cost? Where is the high in transparency? Because for those things, with the opportunities of open banking, things will happen. And the impact of open banking, again, there will be a lot more in-depth discussion on that one, but I just found this number really shocking and interesting. This is until December 2019, so pretty recent data from the UK, and this is just the number of successful API calls in millions per month. So, Jesus, this is real, no? This is really real. This is not something which is just, hey, you know, we have a regulation, nobody's really using that one. Hey, it's real, no? Kind of, it's really increasing, and you see a classical, actually, driver behind that one, again, which is different platform building up. Obviously, credit checks, etc., is the most obvious ones. So it's important that really from those drivers you understand for your own segments, where is the platform economy really hitting us? So with the last couple of, actually 2.5 minutes, the last kind of point, so what do I want to leave you with, right? So now through, you can feel I have a lot of conviction, and if I do something, believe something, have a lot of energy. So apology, I think I threw a lot of data and number now at you, so I hope you have time to digest. But I still want to leave you with 3 big topics. How to move from here if you're a player. I believe on the one is accept. Now, let me say in a minute what that means. Really accepting realities, shifting realities. One of my favorite quotes, again, I don't know to whom I have to credit it to, was, the world will never be as slow as today. The world will never be as slow as today. It will only get faster from here, no? So this is something which you really deeply need to accept. And I feel with most or many banking executives, that acceptance level is still not there. So it's still a little bit of way to go. It's belief. If you do something, you got to believe in it, and believe means you got to be in it. And too many, banking, cold water, let me get out of that one, no? So if you do it, believe into that one. And partner, we are here, we should partner. Briefly accepting, why? Just again, a few more last numbers. 50%, McKinsey just did end of last year research, and they said 50% of the banking or revenues in the financial services industry in the United States is at risk to be taken by the big tech giants within the next 3 years. That's a pretty massive shift. Again, open banking enabling that one and eating into that one. And of course, you see it from the payment industries. I think I did my first mobile payment project in around 2010. And back then, we were already talking about Apple. Now you see where they are. The number doubled. By now, it's 12 million United States American, up from 6 million. You say, within the next 12 months, I'm thinking to change my current account. And 2%, as there's still the difference, so 2%, 38 over 36% of customers in the States say, I still prefer my financial advice, not like transaction, advice to be received in person. 36 are already in digital. So it's the last year was 2019 where the personal advice was more valuable than actually digital advice. So accept that reality. Believe. This is the funding, this is the average number or million needed in order to create 1 billion in a unicorn. So for every unicorn value which is out there, which is around 2 trillion, you have 216 million invested. So belief, this is expensive, because if you compare it again, 300 million is the number which the total banks invested into the IT budgets in 2019. 425 billion was raised by today's unicorns, creating 2 trillion of value. What that means is if you do something, you really got to believe into that one because it's a long way. It's not something which you just create. And very lastly, you got to partner up. This is a study just which we did, success of collaboration with fintechs or with startups versus the experience level. Financial services is there. You guys are super active. You do a lot, right? You do unicorns, investments, accelerators, and hackathons, and. But if you don't have the belief and if you don't have a clear vision of how does it really work, it will just be lipstick service and will cost you a lot of money. With that being said, thank you very much. Please don't use platform just because it's cool. Think about where it really goes and then do it with conviction, with all the belief. And that one, leverage the time, matchmake here as much as you can, and enjoy the 3 days. Thank you very much.